Hey guys, welcome back to CryptoTawk. Thank you for joining us on another episode. I'm Usman and I'm with Ayul Farid. And today we're going to give you guys a bit of a crypto roundup for the end of 2023. This year has probably been a pretty huge roller coaster, hasn't it, Farid?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually been just, I think you used the right word. It's been actually like a roller coaster with mixtures of emotions, the bad things, the good things, everything came together. But I'm actually happy that we're kind of like ended the year uh on a high note.
Absolutely. And right now we're talking about uh the way how things are looking for crypto, even though it did end on, it is ending on a high note. I think this is going to push forward towards 2024. There's a lot of big things coming up, a lot of narratives. Um, I think we're in a really good space to be able to take advantage of this next bull run that we're in right now, because it might be our last.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's actually, I think next year is going to be very, very, very interesting in the crypto space. I mean, that is the year where everybody who has left the crypto space will probably be flocking in back, and we're going to have even more adoption than what we had this year. Yeah, it's actually going to be very fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, as we kick off, I want to know a little bit, help us understand a little bit what's been going on in the crypto space since January this year, how things have been looking now and how things are looking now.
Yeah, I mean, this year, just like you said, it's been a roller coaster. There's a lot of things that have happened. We went into the year with Bitcoin being around, $16,000, which is actually a very, very low price compared to where we actually topped in the bull market in 2021, which is around $69,000. And the overall market cap of the cryptocurrency market even tilted, it even actually went really, really low. I think it went a little bit below $1 trillion slightly. But I think right now we all know that we're around, probably close to 2 trillion again. So it's actually amazing. But then come February, what happened? We had a lot of like regulatory clampdown. We had the SEC going after Kraken, uh, which is a centralized crypto exchange, one of the biggest centralized crypto exchange in the US. And they went after them for actually claiming that their staking operations make them uh, a security exchange, right? And then they basically had to Kraken had to like pay about $30 million, which is actually part of the gloomy things that came with crypto this year. There's a lot of like regulatory countdown, which was like in response to what happened last year, 2022, with a lot of companies going down, the FTX, the Voyagers, the Celsius, the Luna, what have you. So, but fast forward to April, we basically had a little bit of a calm in the space. We kind of like we started to have this optimism. We had ARK Invest come on board and basically filing for Bitcoin ETF, and then that actually brought in some momentum in the space. Okay, I think we thought, okay, the institutions are having interest again. Now we can actually know that, okay, crypto is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. And then, but talking about the roller coaster, June came on board. Also, we had even the SEC coming other against Binance and also Coinbase, claiming that some of the tokens that they have listed on the exchange as securities. That was when they came with notable tokens like, ADA, Solana, among a lot of other tokens, claiming that they are securities. And that is basically one of the regulatory clampdown that came. And not to actually forget, around the earlier this year, the first quarter this year was when there's a lot of banks that actually went on that also, which was, I think, the Signature Bank, the Silicon Valley Bank, and these were like the major banks that were involved in crypto. They were the on ramps of crypto where people can actually use to actually buy and actually give access to get access to crypto. Now, when these banks went under, due to something that we can attribute to, Senator Elizabeth Warren in the US, due to some of our statements, it caused bank run. So we saw that as part of the clampdown that was coming on board. And come July, we had the XRP case actually came, and then we had a little bit of calmness come on board. Well, because now XRP, the ruling was in favor of XRP, and then the XRP warriors, or what do they call them? I think there's a name they call the XRP supporters. The XRP people were happy about that. The whole crypto were happy about that as a decision in our favor. Then the same towards that same time, we have Sam Altman, WorldCoin came on board talking about how he's trying to like bridge the inequality through innovative features, right? So we came towards August, right? Towards August, we saw one major news that came on board, which was PayPal stablecoin, right? PayPal announced we're actually launching a stablecoin, which is actually amazing because they were launching a stablecoin on the Ethereum network, which was amazing. But it was actually a mixed emotion also because some people actually thought, okay, if PayPal is actually launching, they have the access to actually freeze, to wipe your account, to do this, to do that. But I mean, personally, I wasn't really phased because both USDC and USDT also has that same problem, right? So, October we saw some other things like uh, SBF, which is Sam Bankman-Fried, the CEO of the former CEO of FTX. He got locked up again. He was actually he was found violating his bail conditions, and he actually got locked up again. And which was, I mean, it was I wouldn't want to say nice, but actually it was nice having him back inside based on some of the things he has done in the crypto space. And we're talking about November. This was when things got a little bit very, very amazing. This was when we saw uh, uh n- not necessarily amazing in a sense, but looking at the prices of assets, we can say it's amazing. Things were already rallying back. Solana was already in the upward trajectory, but then there was a very big news that came. That was when Binance and CZ actually agreed to actually violating US laws, and actually Binance was fined about $4.3 billion, which was quite a lot, even not only in the crypto but in the financial sector generally. It's a huge fine. And Binance, CZ Binance, who is the founder of Binance, actually had to like resign, and that's one of the major things that happened this year. But come December, things have been a little bit calming. We've had the Santa Rally, something that I would like to call Santa Rally. We've had a lot of like basically we've had some more positive things happening this year. And we're ending on the high notes because we believe that probably in the first 2 weeks of January, an ETF may be approved or not. But that's just a basic rundown of how this year went. It was a roller coaster of emotions, the good, the bad, and all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially on that Sam Bankman-Fried aspect. I was watching a documentary where you had a lot of people who lost a lot of money on FTX. So like, good riddance, you know. They really
Yeah, I'm among the FTX. I mean, I think get emails from FTX talking about I'm going to actually get my funds. I hope I'm able to do that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. I pray you do. You know, that's. I mean, a lot of you see some people are very upset. Do you think he's gonna get? You think he's gonna get a lot of time, or you think that's just?
Yeah, I mean, I think things are actually with FTX bankruptcy. Things have actually been working a little bit faster compared to the other bankruptcy that we've had. I think people who were some of the people who had money with Maggox in when Maggox went under in 2014. I believe till now they've not been paid, and these already like how many years afterwards. So, but then with FTX, things have been a little bit faster. Most of the money have been recovered, and I think most likely than not, FTX victims are going to get compensated, if not 100% to the tune of 80%. I believe in the next 2 years maximum. I think everybody should actually be compensated because things are actually moving faster with FTX.
That's good. That's good. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and FTX is even trying to like, yeah, I said I was actually pointing out that FTX is also trying to like have something called FTX 2.0 and actually launch again. But yeah, it's amazing, and yeah, I think That's one thing that we might see in the next bull run. We might see in 2024, 2025.
Yeah, and I know you were touching on some of the, how pretty much the theme of how things were going throughout each month of the year. But I want you to go a little bit into a little bit more detail about like how when you say bear market dominance, like what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, it was more of, to a large extent, I wouldn't want to say uh we were really, really in the bear market. I mean, in hindsight, when we take a look back at things, we can say, okay, 2023 was actually the beginning of the new cycle of the bull markets. But at the beginning of the year, things were like not really rosy. We're just coming out of the whole 2022 different debacles from 2022. So, but then there was still not a lot of money. Just like I said, there were regulatory clampdown. There was no money coming in. Most of all the on-ramps earlier this year was already cut off. The Signature Bank, the Silicon Valley Bank, a lot of companies don't want to work with crypto. And yeah, but so there was like really, really bear market. Only people that were able to buy are people, who are already really, really in the space. There wasn't really a lot of money coming into crypto or to the later aspect of this year. And those are part of the key themes, part of the things that actually happened in this year, right? So another thing that we actually saw more is like, the regulatory clampdown. And especially when once Senator, Elizabeth Warren in the US, the bill that she actually brought aboard, where she actually stated that um when the whole gist about the bill is that, crypto wallet providers, these are your MetaMask, your Phantom wallets, what have you, and then miners and validators, they actually have to KYC their users, which is actually unheard of. We're talking about, even though we want regulations, we don't want like regulations which goes above the line, which actually goes to actually art innovative innovations in the space, right? Asking people to actually KYC their wallets is actually, it goes against um the major function of crypto, right? What crypto tries to talk about, it goes against it. So crypto talks about decentralization, and when everybody has to KYC and all, already not actually now talking about decentralization anymore. So that was one of the clampdown that came, as when we're talking about regulatory clampdown that came in 2023. Another thing that actually that we talked about was, the Kraken clampdown earlier the year. They claimed that Kraken was actually offering uh you know securities, or not unnecessary securities, but because of their staking operations, they are basically
Yeah.
a security exchange and this and that. And when they did that, Kraken had to pay $30 million. Just okay, I don't want problem, I'm going to pay $30 million. But what happened later part of the year, I think Q3, towards the end of Q3, SEC had to like go again to Kraken and sue them again for these same issues of actually listed securities and all. So uh I or not necessarily securities. I think they came towards the uh Q3, they came to for commingling user funds. And this is actually a little bit technical, because when we try to look at why there wasn't like commingling of user funds like the case of FTX, which was actually done blatantly. But in this case, it was actually, okay, when you actually place a trade, you actually pay maker and taker fee, and most of this maker and taker fee is taken from your money, as the fee.
Yeah.
So it was actually kind of like the SEC was actually talking about the exchange commingling user funds in that sense. So that was another thing that came on board, and I'm happy that Kraken stood to fight this time around. They were not going to like just give fight and just sit back. They actually wanted to fight for this time around and not just throw away money. So it was amazing. And yeah, another thing that we actually had, we had a lot of things with the Binance issues and the Binance issues. And but then when we actually taking a look into the NFT markets, I mean, NFT markets actually went a little bit downwards, right? We can say the crypto market didn't really go downwards. It actually just maintain a line or move a little bit upwards. But there was more NFT market correction in 2022, 2021. NFT were the talk of the town. Everybody was talking about, Body PH Club. Everybody was talking about Pudgy Penguins. Everybody was talking about their NFTs, right? Everybody on crypto knew about NFTs. But then come 2023, everything came a little bit cool. There wasn't a lot of talk about NFTs, and yeah, but NFT, even NFT volume actually went about 40% lower than what we had in 2022, right? So those are some of the things that came in. But then the NFT market is not, I wouldn't say the NFT market is dead, because I think we might still see the NFT market, pop off. There are certain use cases that comes in an NFT also, when we look more interestingly into Web3. So yeah, I mean, another thing that we saw was, PayPal issues. PayPal actually launched their own stablecoin, which was actually a major thing that happened. So looking more closely with that right now, in hindsight, to look at Binance Coin, which was Binance stablecoin, which is BUSD. It actually got banned, and that they ordered, the US actually ordered Paxos minting to stop minting BUSD, right? So BUSD actually had to go under. A lot of exchanges delisted it, even Binance and everything. But then what happened is, just about a few months after that time, PayPal launched their own with this same issuer, which is Paxos. And that's basically kind of telling us about how the US is kind of like intervening into things to favor um probably companies in this place. But overall, the PayPal stablecoin thing is actually a very positive thing in the crypto space, because PayPal has about 450 million users, and that can actually, and the stablecoin is launched on Ethereum network, which means everybody that wants to use the stablecoin would actually have to get some Ethereum for gas fee. So that can actually be an entry point for people to actually get into the crypto space. So yeah, that's another positive thing that we saw happen. And then subsequently, with, I think from April, we saw the ARK Invest ETF filings. We saw Grayscale also trying to convert their fund to ETF, whereas they will have to honor, withdrawals and all. And also, we saw a lot of other big corporation, Van Egg, and even BlackRock. I think BlackRock came in July to actually file their own also, which is like the biggest asset manager in the world, with trillions in custody. Actually came also trying to talk about, fight for a Bitcoin spot it. And most of these things are going to be determined next year. But that's basically some of the things that we can see. Next year is actually poised to actually be probably a positive year, because there's a lot of good news that is coming on board. But you know, what do you think about some of the whole? When I talk about most of the things I talk about the macro, the technological aspect. But what do you think more about the performance of probably coins or projects or sectors in the crypto space? What do you think happened with this in this aspect of the crypto space over the 2023 yeah?
Yeah. All things considered, I think everyone had their head down. They're building. Um, you have this fiasco that we dealt with last year, and right now the government is cleaning up. So I think the industry itself as a whole, people are just they were just biding their time. You have the loyalists, and they were investing in any new projects that's coming out and looking for new projects that are coming out. And you're talking about one of the largest assets. I'm sorry, the largest digital asset by market cap in the world. Bitcoin went up 160% this year. And followed by Ethereum, even though Ethereum didn't really do. I mean, I guess you can say that they're lagging behind, but they're still king of the altcoins, and right now both of them, they account for 2/3 of the total global market cap for crypto. One thing too, another another narrative that's been pushing up this year was that Solana. Um, and right now they're number 4 when it comes to total market capitalization, and they blew up a lot. You started to see that they went up about 440% this year. Their price, I think, a couple of days ago reached 118 $118. I don't know if you caught that. I was like, the last time they had that price was like around April 2022. So there's been a huge push. And then when you talk about roller coaster, this is a protocol that that was that's close to be delisted. They were considered unregistered securities, but certain things that helped them out. We have that Neon that came out, which leveraged the EVM. So now they're compatible now with like Ethereum and other chains alike. You started to see that Shopify started using Solana Pay. That got everybody like very, very interested, especially also Visa. Visa started using they started on the test network. They started using USDC payments, and so then this led Solana to start creating permission environments for institutions to test payment system. So a lot of people had already given up hope on Solana. It went down to like $8 for the token, but then you started to see these institutions coming back using it. It started pumping when Bonk came on board, that meme coin. And one of the biggest things now people are looking that are hopeful, they're hopeful for with Solana is this launch of the new Fire Dance validated client. And I think that's what everyone is really like hoping that's going to help stabilize the network. I think it went down again this year, didn't it? Like around February.
Yeah, so with the Fire Dancer validated client, I think that's actually coming on board sometime next year. So just to actually set things right for our listeners, Fire Dancer is actually one of the major things that are coming with to crypto to Solana network probably sometime next year. With regards to Fire Dancer, it's actually a validator client, which is like the software that validators can use to validate. And I think Ethereum has about 4 validator clients, while Ethereum, while almost other chains, right? As a matter of fact, all chains have about just one, right? But with Fire Dancer being built by Jump Crypto, I think they are going to basically, now you have different code that operates on Solana, and will really, really greatly help Solana when we talk about transactions. Solana will be able to process up to 800 or 600,000 transactions per second, which is like really, really huge. And when we also look at, because one of the problems that Solana always faced in 2021, 2022 was that it actually gets turned off when there's a lot of like activity going on the chain. And that was actually because Solana was built in a way, whereas when anything that comes in a way of like a DDoS attack, it actually just goes down, right? So, but basically, I think with Fire Dancer right now, those things will be solved, because now you have a client, you have a different software, different piece of code, as opposed to the one that is already existing on the Rust language. Now we have even some other a new one being built by basically Job Crypto, and that's going to really, really positively affect Solana.
Yeah, and you were saying something like you were saying that as far as NFT goes, it died down a lot, this year. But I wanted to mention that Solana, they came out with this state compression that allows easy minting of NFTs on their network. So now it looks like you can mint like 1 million NFTs with like $110 worth of SOL. So I think
Yeah,
that's going to be very big for the NFT market if once that takes off again.
yeah. I mean,
Um, yeah,
that's actually kind of like really positive, because one of the problems that Ethereum has always been facing was the issue of gas fee, right? You're talking about gas fee, you have to pay $50, $100, but then with Solana, probably pennies on the cent, and you're good to go. So I think that's actually one of the reasons why Solana is actually really getting a lot of momentum, and Ethereum is actually lagging behind so far this year.
yeah, absolutely. And when you look at all of this what's been going on, you started to see that there's this crazy fluctuation, people buying, people selling, prices aren't stable. But yet, when you look at Africa and how it actually affected, um, the people in Africa, how they use crypto, you will see that it's a little bit, it's a little different. You're talking about adoption in, in Nigeria, it was like the second highest in the world. And by the way, if you guys missed it, Nigeria no longer bans crypto. According to their central bank, they lift the ban that was set 2021. They're no longer banning crypto. Um, but you're talking about a whole different use case. Um, People in Africa, they usually focus on remittance, P2P, payment methods. These are very big, when we're talking about crypto in Africa. And I think you're going to start seeing more adoption going on. And I think it's the right time because a lot of people are going to jump on what crypto have to offer, the institutions, the organizations that are building on the network. They're catering to a lot more of the use cases that Africa and let's say India are where the grassroots are. They're catering to a lot of projects towards that aspect. And I just think growth is definitely eminent when it comes to cryptocurrency in Africa. But and when you're looking at now, if we're looking at 2024, what are some of your predictions, like as far as globally, or how does inflation rate and other macroeconomic factors, what do you think is going to play on crypto?
Yeah, absolutely. With crypto 2024, the what we're talking about in this podcast right now is crypto in 2020, crypto 2023 review and 2024 in view. So I can only just make some predictions and what I think is going to happen. But yeah, we've seen the inflation rate in US as an economy really, really way high as at 2024, 2021, before they started the rate hikes, right? And yeah, talking about that, inflation went as high as about 7% or 8%. Right now, it's about 3.5 or 3.0%. I'm not sure about the right number, but then looking at that inflations and looking at how they are trying to curb inflations, we actually talk about this in some of the episodes that we've recorded in the Crypto Talk podcast. I think if you check probably episode 2, we talk a little bit about interest rates, right? So looking deeper into how inflation is eating into the economy of US, we have issues of uh the US trying to like curb this inflation by actually increasing and decreasing in interest rates. So interest rate has actually been on the rise since I think 2021 or 2022, even towards the end of this 2023. After every FOMC meeting, they basically mostly increase it a little bit by probably 25 basis points, 50 basis points, what have you, based on the inflation reports. And what this does is it actually reduces the money in circulations, and that curbs inflations. Right now, they can't actually continue doing this too much if they don't want to like break the economy. So what they will have to do is probably sometime next year, they definitely have to start cutting inflation rates just to allow more people to, put their money in the stock market or buy bonds and do this and that. And that is basically going to translate into the spot the sports, the stock market, right, is going to probably now make people feel comfortable because now there's interest rate cuts. Then people can basically take their money out of the bank and spend and all. So now when they can spend, they can actually invest also, and that's going to basically stimulate the economy and stimulate the market in 2024. And I think that definitely, considering that crypto mirrors what happens in the stock market, you can actually definitely be sure that most likely crypto is going to actually be on upward trajectory alongside the stocks next year. But that's not only the only thing that will contribute to a positive market environment next year. Another thing is basically the ETF approval, right? So this is something that almost everybody and their grandmas has already known, right? So there are major investment banks, major corporations. I've actually filed for a spot ETF. So an ETF is basically an exchange traded fund, which means it's a basket of investments, and Bitcoin can actually be among this basket of investments. And different people can actually just, with a punch of a button, buy an ETF, which Bitcoin contains it. That means some random person in the US who is about 60 years old and just wants his 401ks, retirement funds with Bitcoin inclusive, can actually dictate that. And a lot of money will go into it. All of these corporations have different levels. All of these corporations have a lot of money under their custody, trillions of dollars under their custody. Now, this can be accessible to most of their millions of users, right? They can actually have the access to buy Bitcoin, as opposed to them who doesn't have the know-how to actually use, MetaMask, to use Binance, to use, what have you. Now they can actually use get access towards Bitcoin by actually going through the ETF mode. So I think if this spot ETF is approved, which most likely is going to be approved, because one of the things we can look at is when one of the people that is trying to, like, one of the corporations that is trying to, like, get access to this ETF is BlackRock. And BlackRock has about 500, and I've forgotten the number, over 500 ETF applications, and probably just one has been rejected. So going by that, we can almost be sure that um BlackRock ETF is going to be approved, right? And you have Larry Fink, which is basically one of the major people in the US, yeah, which is political affiliations. Everybody believes BlackRock ETF is going to be approved. Now, what the SEC cannot do is actually approve BlackRock ETF while they leave ARK Invest, while they leave Grayscale. I'm sure Grayscale out of everybody is going to put their access to court. So definitely they wouldn't want to, like, create a competition by actually, an unfavorable competition by actually approving one company's ETF and not approving the second company. So most likely all of these ETFs is going to be approved at the same time. And the first ETF to be approved, the deadline is for ARK Invest around January 10th. And probably this is why everybody's envisaging that they are going to approve everybody's own. Both ARK Invest, BlackRock, Van Eck, Grayscale, what have you. All of them are going to be approved by 2023, January 10th. Now, maybe everything is going to be approved. I don't know. Maybe not everything. But probably come March 2023, which is 2024, which is like the deadline for BlackRock to approval. Now we're going to see if it's going to be approved or not. I think it's a wait and see thing, but almost certainly this ETF is going to be approved, and this will definitely create an influx of big corporations. Last time we actually see some big corporations flocking into crypto was in 2021 bull market. That was when we saw Tesla with Elon Musk accepting Bitcoin, playing around Bitcoin. We saw Michael Saylor with what's the name of his company, MicroStrategy, coming on board, just buying Bitcoin on every freaking dip, or whether there's a dip or not. Michael Saylor was just buying Bitcoin with MicroStrategy. So that's another factor that I think would actually make the markets very, very positive next year. But not only that, one of the another thing is basically what's next year. Next year is another year for the US election. And when we're talking about the US election, is one of the US being one of the major countries around the world. Uh, their elections matters a lot because they control the US dollar and the US dollar controls the world. So basically what happens is majorly when there's a year of election, the incumbent government always tries to like please the people because they will actually want another tenor. So what do? They try to how do you please the people by making them money? And how do you make them money? By making sure they spot the the market is on the high note, is on upward trajectory. And how do you do that? By cutting interest rates. This is what they can do next year, which will basically makes and even from historically, we can see that almost every year of election, Bitcoin always Bitcoin swells, and also the stock market is always on the upward trajectory on every year of election in the US. So we can almost be certain that uh stock market. And because of this, the crypto market is going to mirror this. And if the stock market goes up 1%, we already know that Bitcoin is probably going to go up 10%. And you know what? The odds are probably going to go up 100%. So we can always be sure on these things. So these are some of the global trends and some other things that I think can actually influence the market positively next year. But these are not the only thing. These are only from the when we're looking at this from a macro view. But when we actually niche down into crypto, actually when we're looking at some technological breakthrough, right? So I think next year, we have things like Bitcoin halving and some other things. So I mean, you might want to touch a little bit on that, Osman, about some actual probably technological advancements that can contribute to the crypto market in 2024.
So yeah, absolutely. The Bitcoin halving is definitely a big topic that's coming, it's coming up early part of next year. I think around April. So pretty much, with Bitcoin, we are currently getting 6.25 blocks. Bitcoins per block, and this was since May of 2020. With the halving, we're going to be going down to 3.15, I think. Was that correct? I think it's
I think somewhere around 3.15. It's going to be halved. It's going to be divided into half. So I think that's correct.
Right. So I mean, with this, coming on board, it's going to create a supply shortage. And usually what we've seen after that, a couple months after that, we tend to see the price of Bitcoin going up. And even some places like CoinDesk are saying that Bitcoin is going to reach 160K for one Bitcoin. We don't know how accurate that is, but it's definitely possible in the crypto space. But when you're talking about technology in crypto, some of these things that a lot of people are looking at, especially institutions and organizations alike, is AI. The AI is going to be a big narrative that they're going to try to boost cryptocurrency sector with artificial intelligence and Web3 space. Some of the things also that are going to show up with some of the things we're going to be seeing with AI, are things like metaverse, Web3 gaming. There's a few projects right now, especially in the gaming sector. A lot of money is being funneled into those areas, and I think that's what's going to definitely boost crypto, especially in the GameFi sector, with the technology of AI. There's this thing called generative AI. I'm not sure if you heard of it. Um, it literally allows people to interact with their surroundings, and especially with these things like NPCs. And what happens now is it allows, for a more realistic gaming experience, especially in a place like the metaverse, where a lot of people are going in there. They want to experience the universe outside of reality, obviously. Um, and I think generative AI is going to definitely make a big move in the gaming sector. Um, you're gonna see a lot of token rallies, around a lot of token rally around AI. I know um, one of the things we saw this year, I guess later on this year, were like projects like Render. You know, they've been big on the AI network. Um, so there's a few others. Um, so things like I said, AI for me is going to be I think it's going to be a very huge narrative in the crypto space this 2024. But in order for all of these things to actually plan together, I know you were talking about these ETFs, but one thing that I'm kind of skeptical about is Tether. Um, I know that I know that the institutions want to get their hand on crypto, but the SEC wants to make sure that everything is regulated, and especially opening the doors to the traditional market into the crypto space. One of the things that they're going to have to, get better control of is Tether, um, or USDT stable coins, or USD stable coins. And I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know when it's going to happen, but uh, Tether is on the chopping block when it comes to the SEC's um, site here's. Uh, they have a lot of they don't back any of their or they don't back all of their USDT claims. So I think it's going to be an issue. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole issue of Theta has actually always been coming in since I've been actually active in the crypto space, and that's going back since 2020, 2019, 2020. So I think the issue of Theta is going to actually be something that we might actually need to probably might actually get clarity next year or not. We always think every year Theta will get clarity. This is because Theta is actually the company that actually means USDT stablecoin, and the rule with USDT stablecoin, because it is actually it is supposed to be backed by dollars, which means it's supposed to be backed 1 to 1 by dollar. For every USDT that you mint, there must be a USD dollar in reserve for it. For every US dollar that you spend, $1 must be burnt. So now this is the issues that we have. There's been a lot of there's been a lot of issues that we have now with talking about, is USDT going to be is USDT really fully backed 1 to 1? But then USD, the Tether company has always said sometimes it's not backed 1 to 1. It's backed with commercial papers, it's backed with bonds, it's backed with this and that. And most people actually in the crypto space believes that this is actually false. It's not fully backed. And when there's a case of a bank run, is this going to be an issue? So I think you might get the clarity to with that next year or not. We might actually get we might get the whole company be audited, and then probably the question we have is it going to actually be deplatformed, or is it going to um be deplatformed, or is it going to be audited, and every issues that we have about that is going to be clear? So I think that's the issue with Tether.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I understand that. Um, I think it's going to make it easier for adoption to happen globally, and it's something, that once it does clear up, I think you'll see a lot of players involved. Um, Now, what do you think some of the emerging trends are going to be? Like, what narratives are going to play into 2024?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a little bit the other time about AI. So those are some of the narrative I think definitely would actually uh, play up. I've actually, if you take a look at my Twitter, I've actually been talking about render, talking about certain AI tokens, but I think AI would actually play. But even not only the AI thing again, as at this moment, you know, this year we had a lot of like projects that come on board, and they actually had a massive success. Talking about FriendTech, Friend.tech. FriendTech is actually like a social fi a project, whereas you get to like interact with other people and earn coins as you interact and spend coins, earn coins, things like that. I think that's one of the narratives that can actually uh blow up next year. We'll have a lot of, we already had some of competitors to Friend Tech this year, but I think we might have a lot more of competitions to Friend Tech and social fi generally next year. Whereas, and also, I know that FriendTech is probably going to have their airdrop next year, and that's going to reignite the spark of social fi. So I think one of the things to look into next year is actually social fi is a trend that I'm actually looking into, and definitely another trend I'm really, really, really looking into, which is actually obvious to everybody, is the meme coins, right? You know, 2020, 2020, 2021, I used to stay away from meme coins because I used to believe they don't have intrinsic value. But then I've come to realize in crypto space that it's not only about intrinsic value anymore. It's now about community in Web3 space, the power of community. When the community stands behind a project, don't go against it. We've seen that with Dogecoin, we've seen that with Shiba Inu, we've seen that with Pepe. We've seen that with Bonk. We've seen that with a lot of meme coins that have come. And we thought they would go, but they still sit in billions of dollars in market capitalization. So yeah, that's one that I'm actually looking at. And another narrative or trend that I'm looking at is basically um asset tokenization. Basically, asset tokenization is now where we look broadly into the Web3 space, right? When we look at certain things, not only about not only about you being able to trade Bitcoin or Ethereum or do certain things, speculate on chain. Now you can actually bring real world assets into the space, right? So already this particular trend is already expected to actually reach about 16 trillion in this in markets in about 2030. I think that was what I read. So, but then I think asset real asset tokenization actually would be a trend. This is when you can actually bring real world assets on chain and tokenize them, and then people can actually own them on chain, right? So, for example, you stay in Sierra Leone now, and I need a town or a piece of the land in Freetown. But I don't really want to buy the land because I just want to speculate on the price, and when it goes higher, I can sell and do the different things with it. So I can basically do that by basically you tokenizing that asset on chain, and I can buy that on chain. So it's actually really amazing. And another sub trend that I think will actually go with it, we go with asset real world assets, tokenization is also like fractional ownership of assets, right? Right now, if I have a land in Sierra Leone or I have a land in Nigeria or whatever country, it's now very hard for me to like really say, okay, I want to own a fraction of these, or I want to do this, I want to do that. I have to probably buy. I can't say, okay, I want to buy $1. It's not as slick as it would be on chain, right? Whereas if I say I want to buy $1 of Bitcoin, I can buy $1 of Bitcoin. But I think fractional ownership of real world assets is going to be another trend come the next bull market, come 2024. I think we might actually see growth in that aspect, whereas people can actually buy a fraction of these reward assets. And this is not only about land, this can be anything. This can be buying buying fractions and asset tokenization of luxury watches, fast cars, what have you. So this is another trend that I'm looking at to actually be big again. And another thing, and I think that actually is already like a major thing right now, because when we look at MakerDAO, about 55% of the revenue in MakerDAO is actually asset tokenization already. So I think it's actually going to be a big thing next year, or a bigger thing next year. And another thing is actually GameFi. I think you can't actually really fade GameFi anymore. GameFi is what is going to bring in this widespread or mainstream adoption. Everybody loves to play games. Games is not something that is limited to, okay, this is a kid that already play games now. Now you see big grown people actually playing games. So I think
Oh, you
yeah. So basically I think that's a major thing that can actually go. Those are certain trends that I think would be big. But let me just throw this question to you, just to probably looking at it from a more streamlined view. What do you think would actually be some trends that would actually go in the African crypto space, or certain things that will stimulate adoption in the crypto space, talking about innovations and even probably regulations.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about real world asset tokenization. You have a lot of people, who are looking to invest in African countries, and I'll speak directly, as one of them who have to be here in order to invest in the country, and that's because of a lack of trust. And anybody who's sent money back home to build, uh, they end up praying to God that when they reach back to their country, that they see the house that the family member keep showing them online. But you see now when there's blockchain in the mix, um, that's opened the door to people from the diaspora to invest back into their home country. And I think that's a really nice. I think that's a really nice technology to grace the land of Africa, because um, not only for the people in the diaspora, but also the people on home base. Anybody who wants to get access to some sort of investment, they don't have to go through a middleman of a bank, like a bank or anything like that. They can go directly to the app and start, and start trading or investing in real estate properties. Now, I mean, one of the things now, when you're dealing with regulations, that's a whole other thing, because we're talking about a security here. Um, and if we're going to be dealing with US dollars or any other Western currency, um, you know, these areas of regulations need to be clear. And one of the things I think Africa is facing, as far as Nigeria goes, um, their policies for regulation kind of mimics the West, if not more stringent. Now, that being said, not everything that applies um, in the West applies in Africa. And some of the things like, addresses, where, some of those things are some a way to validate a person's location. That might not be as easy to come across when you're in a place like Sierra Leone. Or, I mean, I'm not sure about if everywhere has been plotted out on Google Maps in Nigeria, but we don't have a strong we don't have a strong mailing address system here. So some of, there's going to be a little bit of a hurdle dealing with how do you KYC people, and how do you prevent money laundering from happening. So there's a lot of these challenges that goes on, but I really do think real world assets is definitely a big one. Remittance is important. You know, I know for Sierra Leone, that's about 80% of the country's income. Um, and not to say it like in a very in a very cynical way, but it is a big part of the income. It is a big part of how people survive here. And I think if blockchain or crypto enters that space by cutting fees, um, we're going to see huge adoption in that sector. So those are the two things that stands out to me right now as far as some of the things that are um, big. I mean, P2P as well, but that's been going on for some time. Um, but yeah, what about you? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually believe most of the things you said is actually started things that can actually uh, yield, adoption more in Africa space. There's a lot of issues that we have, but if these things are tackled, I think we shouldn't have a lot of issues going forward. Africa is already like one of the, one of the continents that adopts this blockchain and crypto space more now. Taking a look at certain countries like Nigeria, like Kenya, like South Africa. So I think it's just going to grow higher and higher uh, over the next year and even years to come. So now let's just to basically round things up. Let's just to highlight some of the things we'll talk about. Today we talk majorly about some of the things that have happened in 2023. 2023 has been a roller coaster, but I think the aspect of everything is coming next year when we look at things like like the ETF coming on board, looking at interest rate cuts, looking at uh, the housing, the election, and all other major positive deals that I call. I personally believe that in the crypto market we are in for an absolute fear, an absolute upward trajectory in the crypto market next year. I'm bullish, and I believe I'm bullish also. But then I want to actually know how you bullish are you? Can you give your price prediction for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and probably Solana? Where do you see Bitcoin at the end of 2024? Where do you see Ethereum, and where do you see Solana at the end of 2024?
Okay. Well, if I were to say Bitcoin, I see Bitcoin reaching 100K or just under, maybe like 96,000, 96 to 100K by the end of 2024. Solana, I'm sure Solana is going to reach about maybe like 400, or maybe if not 400, probably like 350. I think a lot of Solana has a lot of hype, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. Ethereum, though, I have a feeling that it might be around 3,000 by the end of 2024. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think with Bitcoin also, I think Bitcoin can do a little bit, depending on the institutional adoption and things like that. I think we might be able to see Bitcoin somewhere around 100,000 also, probably, a little bit higher than 100,000, 113,000, or probably somewhere around that. And then we'll probably jump again after the bull market or things like that. Well, with Ethereum, actually, based on how Ethereum is lagging right now, I think Ethereum problems are going to even get higher next year when we are in the bull market. Now fees are going to go to hundreds of dollars, and I think it's going to even give power to it's going to give more power to Solana. So I'm not really that bullish on um Solana on Ethereum. I mean, I'm still bullish, but I don't think it's going to give really exponential growth next year. Probably towards the end of the bull market in 2025, I might still see a little bit of more pops. But looking squarely to 2024, I think I can say Ethereum should probably maybe somewhere just a little bit less than $5,000. I believe it should actually
Oh wow.
reach. Yeah, I actually believe it should touch its all-time high around $4,000 or thereabout, and I think it should push a little bit higher, probably $5,000 or lower. And also with Solana, I think Solana is up for an absolute year. I don't think there's any reason we shouldn't see Solana at $600, $500.
Wow. Well, you are extremely bullish then.
Yeah, well, I'm a bull. I'm a bull. Call me Farid Bull.
All right,
Yeah,
cool. Got you.
yeah. So
I mean,
yeah, go for it.
yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely pushing towards the end, and I think if you liked what you heard today, was there anything that we didn't cover? If there's anything that you'd like to talk about, definitely share, your thoughts with us on the comments. Follow us on our Twitter, CryptoTalk, and subscribe. Listen to the new episodes as they come out every Wednesday. And join our community. We'll definitely love to hear from you.
Yeah, and absolutely. I want to categorically state it. I would want to know what's your own price prediction for Bitcoin. There's going to be just below where you're listening. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple Podcast, what have you, Audible, everything on the comment section, just state where do you actually see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana for the next 24 for the next 12 months, the year of 2024. Where do you see this? Drop your price prediction in the comments. This is how I'm going to know that you will listen fully to this podcast, and do have a nice day.
Yes, take care, guys.